Hi everyone, it's Lisa and welcome to Make It Monday. Today I'm going to be teaching you the shattered glass technique. It's really very simple. You're going to need a roll of household masking tape. I did find that when I made these cards that I preferred a roll that was a little bit wider, only because those of you that follow me know I don't have any fingernails, so it's kind of hard to rip for me, but it works and it works really well. So let me show you how I made this project. You're going to need a quarter sheet of cardstock in a neutral color, and this is very vanilla. Whisper White does work. I'm going to start by using enough masking tape to cover the card. So I'm going to say about 6 inches, maybe 6.5 inches, so that if I go in on a diagonal, I'm able to reach from corner to corner. What you're going to do is you're going to rip the tape in half. And you want these jagged rips. You don't want it to be straight. And if you can, you're going to rip it again. I don't know if you can see this. This is where no fingernails is a challenge. Okay. I'm just going to set the other pieces aside. And what you're going to do is you're going to start creating kind of like a pane effect, like glass would break. Now, these straight edges here are fine as long as they're thin. The excess we're going to leave off to the side. I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. And then I'm going to continue to do this till I have my cardstock covered. And I'm going to be creating different elements of design. You're going to want to make sure too that when you go over to this area here, that these two pieces don't overlap unless you expect there to be another quadrant. So you can always cut it so that it meets itself on top of the tape. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. And again, I'm going to rip a little bit more. And now I'm going to put another piece here. See how I'm not going over this? Because what's going to happen when we do the finish on this, it's going to resist the areas where there is masking tape. And another section here. And I'm going to continue to do this across the whole front until it's filled. Now, there's no rhyme or reason, so don't feel like you got to come up with a pattern. You don't have to. Okay, so this is what I have. These raw edge, you can cut them off, or I'm actually going to pull them to the back, because I find that when I go to remove this, it's going to make it a lot easier for me to find an end to pull. And then you're going to make sure you flip this over and you're going to rub from the back, because you want to make sure that the tape is down really good. All right, now that I have the whole thing covered, I'm going to start with my lightest color ink. You can use 2 or 3 different colors, it's up to you. This is Sahara Sand, and I'm using a wedge of sponge. When I ink it up, I'm going to stamp a little ink off, and I'm going to work in a circular motion to cover my cardstock. You're going to want to go all the way around to have the whole thing covered. Now, if your tape starts to lift up, make sure you push it back down. It's perfectly fine to leave some areas with lighter color than others. That'll give you some variegation in what we're doing. Once you've got that done, then we're going to go in with the next color. I chose Cajun Craze and a different sponge. Make sure you stamp off a little bit of ink because it's going to be really strong at first. And I'm going to work on the outsides and then work my way in. Try different color combinations to see how you like them. It's amazing how they can look aged with different layers of colors. I'm using neutral tones, but I would love to try this with some greens or even some blues. And I'm just working lightly in the center. Okay. Next, I'm going to go in with my next shade, which is going to be Soft Suede. Different wedge, ink it up, tap a little bit of ink off, and then I'm working on the outside edges, working my way in. Here I'm not tapping off as much because it's not as strong of a color as that Cajun, and I want it to be darker. If your pad's really juicy, you're going to want to stamp off a little bit. The next step is to take a darker color yet. I'm choosing Chocolate Chip, and I'm going to be using a background stamp. Using the stamp set En Franquais. It's probably pronounced wrong, so I'm going to show you. If anybody knows the proper way to say this, will you please leave me a comment so I can pronounce it right? All right, I'm going to use it face up because background stamps are tough to handle because of their size. So let me show you some tricks on using this as well. chocolate chip ink pad, leaving my stamp face up on the table. I'm going to ink it up. Okay. This piece, remember the one we sponged? Face down, right on top of it. Scratch piece of paper right over the top, and now you're going to rub. You don't have to lift your background stamps. This works great. If you own the brayer, you can use that as well by rolling over this to get your impression transferred. We're just doing this the backwards way rather than trying to handle this large background stamp. Okay, and then when you're done, I dump it off. Wow, check that out. Didn't that come out great? All right, last step is now to remove the masking tape. I'm going to lift these edges that I've tucked to the back so I have a place to start. And I'm just going to remove them. And you're going to see everywhere we have stamped and everywhere we've sponged has been resisted by the masking tape that we've used. Now you're going to want to work slowly and you're going to want to work carefully because you don't want to rip the cardstock. I'm sure someone's asking, can you use painter's tape? I don't see why not. You can try it. There's one more piece here. All right, so there we go. That's the shattering on this card. Now you're going to see this was my original one. You're going to see how no two are exactly the same. I think on this one I actually used soft suede to stamp the words, where this one I used the chocolate chip. Close, but a slight hue variation. This too I stamped right over the top. Added a sentiment, nice and simple, is a different color combination. Crushed curry, which will be a brand new color in the new catalog coming out May 31st. Then I used soft suede, and then I used chocolate chip. Isn't it beautiful? I went ahead and I stamped off on the soft suede, just giving this a little bit lighter color tone than the ink pad presents, and then stamped my words. Cut it out, put it up on dimensionals, and then mimic the flower that was in the background on this card, and then just sponged it in the same combination I did the background. Add a little bit of dazzling details up on a dimensional, and I let it dry. I look forward to seeing you next week for another technique series, so make sure you subscribe to my blog so you don't miss them. There are going to be more coming, lots of cool things for you to learn. Thanks for watching, and see you next week for Make It Monday.